Today we're going to discuss the 3 big rocks of deadlifting. For us, these are setup, tension, and lockout. Before we get into these, we're gonna have a quick chat about bracing, which applies for both deadlifting and squatting. So our goal with bracing is to create a rigid torso as well as an efficient position for lifting heavy. In order for us to create an efficient brace, we need to think a bit about our core position. What we're gonna focus on here is pulling our ribs down and getting our pelvis underneath. To achieve this, we're probably gonna start standing up before we get down into our deadlift position, taking a bit of an exhale, feeling our ribs come down, thinking about having a belt buckle around our waist and feeling that belt buckle come up to our chin. This is gonna be the position we wanna create in order to then take it over to our deadlift. Once we have this position, we're ready to start our deadlift. So in order for us to have the strongest and most efficient deadlift, we want to maintain a nice rigid torso position. So if we skip this step and don't create a strong brace, it's going to make it harder for us to lift the most amount of weight. So for the deadlift, the setup is definitely the most important step. If we don't get the setup right, a lot of issues can arise further down the track. So the first key part of the setup is having the bar over the middle of our foot. Next, we want to make sure that our arms, and specifically our armpit, are directly over the bar. This will then allow us and set us up to have that bar moving directly vertical. This is definitely what we want to see with our deadlifts. Any movement backwards or forward is unnecessary and just giving us more work to do. Once we have the bar positioned over the middle of our foot, we want to focus on loading our quads and our lats. This is the case with both conventional and sumo deadlifts. We want to make sure we're feeling some tension in these areas before we commence the lift. What this will look like, and this might be a term you've heard before, is taking the slack out of the bar. So you'll notice that most bars have a bit of a bend in them, have a bit of give in them. We want to make sure we take this slack out first before getting into the lift. This ensures that we're building lots of tension through our body, in our lower body and our upper body, to allow for the most efficient and strong deadlift. If as we go to start our deadlift rep, we hear a bit of a click in the bar, this probably means we've rushed this step. So a cue we like to give is make the bar silent. If the bar is silent before we go to lift, we've taken the slack out and we're ready to get the rep going. So the second big rock of deadlifting is tension. Once we've set our brace, that's our first part of creating tension. The next part of creating tension is going to be through our lats. A cue we like to give is thinking we have oranges under our armpits and crushing down on these oranges. This assures we can use these big muscles, the lats, to create a nice rigid start position that we want to have in our setup and hold through the duration of the deadlift rep and for the entire set if we're doing a set. So this is going to allow for a smooth transition of force. We're creating heaps of force with our lower body, but if we're not tight through our lats, some of this force is going to get lost in the process and not get transferred into the bar. So the lats and keeping tension through our back is going to be a nice connection to make sure all that force is going into allowing us to lift as much weight as possible. So it's important to note that creating tension doesn't mean that our back has to be flat. There's a variety of positions that we can deadlift in regards to our back position, and we don't have to have a perfectly flat back position. The key though is that we are creating a position and finding a position that we can maintain throughout the course of the rep. If as we're deadlifting, we're seeing a lot of changing in the shape of our back, this probably means we haven't created some tension and we need to find a different starting position, but we just want to make it clear that we don't need to hunt a perfectly flat back position. A bit of rounding is okay, provided that we can maintain this position across multiple reps, multiple sets, and as weights progress. It's important to note that tension does not mean excessive retraction or thoracic extension. Some people can get this twisted. This is something we don't want to achieve. We don't need to be pulling our shoulder blades back and really having this kind of open chest position. This is going to probably result in us losing that brace that we talked about before. So make sure you think more about crushing oranges under your armpits and creating tension that way in our lats versus in our upper back by squeezing our shoulder blades back and down. That's going to be counterintuitive to a strong deadlift because what it's going to do is make our arms shorter. The final big rock of deadlifting is the lockout. And the key point to focus on here is we want to use our hips and not our back. Yeah, we're going to use our back a little bit. We want to focus more so on using our hips. To achieve this, we have our brace that we've created right from the start of the rep. And if we maintain a good brace, it's going to make it easier for us to use our hips. But then also as we near the lockout, we want to make sure that we're thinking about more so what our lower body is doing and less so about our upper body is doing. Additionally, there's no extra points for hyperextending. We don't really want to throw our back into it and excessively lean back. It's just unnecessary work and probably going to put more load through our back than we want or need. So make sure that as we go towards lockout, we maintain a really solid brace and we think about bringing the hips through more than leaning back and using our back to get the weight up. So we've ran through the big rocks. These are the most important things when it comes to deadlift technique. There might be some other things that we haven't covered, and these are what we'd consider the little rocks. These are the things that are gonna differ from person to person, and we can't give you a straight answer on because it really is a kind of preference-based thing or something that will vary from individual to individual. The little rocks are some things like feet placement, torso angle, and footwear. We can't give you an exact answer on what these things are because they're gonna vary more from person to person. This is something you're just gonna have to find out through a bit of trial and error or by getting a coach to assess your technique. The key thing with these little rocks though is the goal of the little rocks is to help you achieve the big rocks. So change these things if it makes it easier for you to achieve the big rocks. So just to reiterate, the 3 big rocks of deadlifting are setup, tension, and lockout. Hope you found this video useful, guys. If you have any questions about it, please feel free to chuck them in the Discord. You can also post some videos of yourself lifting, and we'd be more than happy to give you some feedback. If you're interested in getting your deadlift stronger, we'd love to help you. You can get in contact for us for online coaching. Also, if you're looking for a beginner training program, check out our training app, and there's various programs that will be able to suit your goals. Happy deadlifting.